My guest is Mr. David Musa. David happens to be a bee farmer. Now, David, now you tell me, why of everything on planet Earth did you choose to go into bee farming?
Well, bee farming for me was unique in the sense that it was a livestock activity as well as a cash crop activity.
Well, livestock, I'm glad.
It's livestock and cash crop,
Wow.
and because it covers a wide range of human sciences, agriculture, botany, entomology, environmental ecology, amongst
So much, so
amongst
much.
so many.
Okay.
So that was what it was for me.
Now, for me, it came to my surprise while researching for this program that every May 20th is recognized by the United Nations as World Bee Day. Now, that came to me as a major surprise because I never knew that bee farming, as it were, has really taken that strong a hold as far as humanity is concerned.
Yes. The importance of that is the role of bees as pollinators.
Okay.
The role of bees as pollinators is about
Not
40
just as
times,
nectar
not just
providers.
as food producing animals. The role of bees as pollinators is very key now that several things are happening to pollinators because of the intensity of farming. A lot of pollinators are dying out, and also because of the use of chemicals, fungicides, pesticides, herbicides. And so it's like a wake-up call. And the world has suddenly woken up and found out that, hey, if these bees live, we have just 4 years to live. Well, they say that bees are the angels of agriculture. I've heard that somewhere said before. But they're also, they also go about their job quietly, and because they're social insects, they also have a very accurate way of doing what they do. And so that's why they're not really noticed. But hey, look, because of their dependence on nectar and pollen, they have a very tight symbiosis between themselves and crops, flowers particularly.
Talking about bee farming, share your thoughts with us. How popular is it within the Nigerian society?
Within the Nigerian community and the Nigerian society, it is growing slowly. It's growing because, of course, austerity, and we need to look at alternative means of income, and of course, the government's insistence on non-oil exports. But how popular is it? Well, from our perspective, from my perspective as a professional, I've seen the number of beekeepers from 10 years ago double. So that means that there definitely is some level of progress.
The thing is that once you think of the word bee, what comes to mind is a possible sting.
Yes.
And you and I know what can happen as a result of that. I was stung by one a few months ago, and I can tell you it wasn't a funny thing. Now you share your thoughts with us.
Yes.
Looking at expansion and looking at those who are willing to go into this farming, you mentioned phobia. How can we demystify that?
Well,
should we really be scared of bee farming?
Should we? Well, of course, my answer would be very prejudiced, but let me just say this. Even the hazard of keeping bees, which is the sting, has its own benefits. I mean, we have begun to understand that bee venom deals with some terminal ailments, including HIV and cancer. So should we be scared of beekeeping? No, we shouldn't, because it's an all-round benefit thing. But I think knowledge and information is very key. Building the perception of people to understand that even the hazard has its own benefits, but it can be controlled, and if it's done properly, you'll be able to get more benefits than the negative impact.
Supposing I want to go into bee farming, what are the prerequisites? What do I need to put on ground? Because someone out there might just be interested.
Yeah.
Where do I start from?
All right, first, you see, the first thing is interest, of course, and interest can be influenced by several things. Interest can be influenced by profit, the need for profit. Influence can be influenced by just passion, okay? So first of all, you need knowledge. So once you get knowledge, then you need to have, from the knowledge that you get, you can now apply what you know. The basic prerequisites are, of course, you need land, you need flowers, you need forage. 2, you need the inputs, you need beehives, you need bees. The industry is growing to the level where we have beekeepers, or we have experts that can give you livestock. You don't have to, we've gone beyond.
I like that word, livestock.
Yes, livestock is very key. We have gone beyond the level where we need to keep bees and let them be colonized naturally. Though that still can happen, but we have gotten to that point where it's possible to stock your hives. And you can meet an expert, you can meet somebody who is knowledgeable on it, and I'm sure the person can put you through.
Now you tell me, how profitable is bee farming?
Okay, let me put it to percentages. Bee farming, let me use the word beekeeping. For us, that's the better nomenclature. Beekeeping is 60% more profitable, 60% more profitable than 70% of all animal husbandry enterprises. What I mean by that is the factors of production that influence profitability for beekeeping is not as labor or cost intensive as other enterprises, because bees depend on flowers and nectar. Flowers and nectar are almost 95% of their feeding source. So their feeding source is plant material. So once you have plant material and you've got the natural resources that you require, you have close to 80% of what you require. The remaining 20% is the management. But not so with other animal husbandry enterprises.
How easy is it to manage a beekeeping enterprise?
Well, it's not nuclear science. Let me just say that. It's easy managing manageable numbers. Let's say 25 to 50 hives to 60 hives is not that strenuous, and you are inspecting most of the time. You need to make sure that you observe and you mitigate the risks rather than taking care of the risks all the time. So that puts less pressure on labor.
Talking about organization, how organized is the beekeeping subsector within the Nigerian space?
Well, the Nigerian space, let me start from the supervising ministry. The supervising ministry is Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, and within FMAD, there is the Department for Veterinary and Pest Control Services. Now there is a good organization. There has been a good attempt to marry the public sector and the private sector, and towards that, an organization called Nigerian Apiculture Platform has been set up. It's domiciled in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. I happen to be the PRO of that organization. And then there are lots of other organizations that come under Nigerian Apiculture Platform. And then, of course, there are cooperatives. And the cooperatives are linked with the state ministries of agriculture and also the ADPs organization.
I want us to quickly talk about two things: adulteration and the possibility of exporting what do you call it? Honey
and bee products. Yes. Let me start with adulteration. Adulteration is a very touchy subject, but I can also tell you that consumer perception of honey in Nigeria is poor. We need to improve that. Why? Because honey has a lot of properties, organoleptic properties, physical and chemical properties. It's actually a food that has a chemical process, correct? And chemical processes can respond to natural situations in different ways. There's something we call crystallization. Generally, Nigerians believe once honey is crystallized, it begins to get grainy, it has been adulterated with sugar. Now that needs to change. And perception, knowledge is very key. There is an international document called the Codex Alimentarius Global Standards for Honey. It's in the open space, it's in the public space, so we just need to know what it says. It defines honey. Now Nigerians need to know that. So issues of adulteration require information, require capacity building and knowledge. Then the other question you mentioned, export. You spoke about export. Well, Nigeria is a target market destination for most countries out there. You have some of the highest producers of honey target the Nigerian market. And so I ask myself, would you not be reinventing the wheel or just replicating something that's not good by saying that you want to export again when you already have a viable market? So if you ask me, I would say that the local market is already enough. Export should be something that should be looked at as an option B or for premium, okay? For honey and beehive products as well. But in the future for us, a very huge potential would be livestock, exporting livestock, because all over the world, livestock, honeybees are sick, okay? We've got acute paralysis syndrome, you've got the Varroa destructor, you've got what they call the colony collapse disorder. So a lot of honeybee livestock, in the northern hemisphere, a lot of it is dying out. So they're getting declining numbers in pollinators. So Nigeria can look to that as
so much goes with the bee. Pharmaceuticals, the beauty industry, what have you and what have not. Can we talk about some of these things? Because the whole idea why we are doing this is to get people, interested in bee farming and to understand that in every facet in agriculture, there's also the agribusiness aspect of it.
Indeed. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Well, bee products, there are 6 of them. There are 6 physical bee products. There's honey, propolis, pollen, royal jelly, beeswax, and bee venom. These each have different chemical compositions and physical compositions, and they express themselves or they are used in different ways. Honey, of course, as a sweetener. Okay, and let me just quickly mention, honey is the only natural sweet from an animal that is available in industrial quantities. So it's the only animal, is the only source of, is the only sweetener from an animal. Then beeswax is an excellent emulsifier. So it works in pharmaceuticals, it works in confectionery. Then pollen, of course, these are supplements that are rich in pollen, in protein, and a lot of other products. Propolis is an excellent antifungal, antiviral. Now, their use in the different areas is as a result of the value that they have to the bees. The bees have been using them for thousands of years and they've been successful. And so that relates to how they'll be successful for man. Okay, so then pollination. 2/3 of every food, of all the food that we eat, is pollinated by honeybees, because honeybees can be mobilized in large numbers. Honeybees are consistent to plants throughout the year, throughout the day. They are available in a number of seasons, and you can just use them in so many situations. So that's a little bit about that.
Well, David, at this point, we have to say thank you so much for having shared the last moments with us. And I can assure you that our viewer out there is better off for it. I hope in no distant future we'll have cause to further interrogate most of these issues.